there's another passage that comes to my mind. It's Colossians 2:10, and you know that one pretty well.
Yeah, Colossians 2:10 states, "You were complete in Christ, who is the fullness of the Godhead bodily." And what Paul's trying to get at in that passage is, he's trying to get at a lot of things in that passage, but the main bulk of it is that I don't need anything beyond Christ. And a lot of men struggle with that idea, because the question that we get a lot is, well, how can God satisfy me sexually? I get how God could be my everything in my salvation. I get how God could be my everything in my joy, but how could God satisfy me sexually? Certainly God can't do that for me. So if my wife isn't putting out, or if I'm single, I'm just going to be unsatisfied. I can't possibly be complete in Christ. But I would say that argument is one made from selfishness. You are making that argument because you are incomplete. And the problem with someone being incomplete when they go into the marriage bed, what can you do beside take if you're not already complete in Christ? But if you understand the idea that what Paul's trying to get at is that my sexuality can always be satisfied in Christ, because my sexuality was built for the glory of Christ. So whether I am able to have sex or not able to have sex, my sexuality can be satisfied in Christ when I look at it as being something that glorifies Him. If I'm in a situation like what Bo just said, where my wife is hurting and she can't physically have intimacy with me, then the way I glorify Christ in my sexuality is I die to that thing. I die to that thing, and I suffer long, and I remain kind in the grace and glory of Jesus Christ. And that's what honors God in my sexuality. If my wife is able to have sex, then I go into the marital bed with the heart of love, and I glorify Him in that way. But the ultimate goal is to honor God out of already being complete in Him, not lacking. And that's the major problem we see in marriages, is that people go in lacking something, looking for the other to satisfy, whether it's sexual, whether it's their value, whatever it is, and they only take from the relationship, and the other person only puts up with it for so long.
And that's so true. You just ask yourself a question. If I'm not complete in Christ, what am I going to bring into the marital bed? What kind of distortion of God am I going to bring into that marital bed? And how am I going to damage my spouse? And this is where it gets scary, but very important, is that whatever damage we do in the marital bed is going to have a magnified effect, because sex is sensitive and it's vulnerable and everything like that. So that's why rape crimes are so they're so hard hitting in court cases, is because it's a vulnerable situation. Someone gets raped. There's vulnerability. So when you bring an uncontented heart into the marriage bed in selfishness, then that is going to be the most damage in your relationship. And if your wife or even a husband's heart is damaged in that marital bed, they might not say something for years, but yet in their heart, deep in their heart, they know that person doesn't love them. They're just using them. And that's where it can get very damaging in a marriage. So it's an important lesson to learn, and that's why love is so important.